The tragic end came in a British Columbia hospital room in August 2018. The man lying in that bed barely resembled the giant who once soared through wrestling rings around the world. Don Leo Jonathan, the Mormon Giant, had been hospitalized for 2 months. His massive frame, once capable of backflips and drop kicks, was now confined to medical equipment and sterile walls. But what most people don't know is that Don Leo Jonathan lived one of the most amazing lives in wrestling history. This wasn't just another big man who relied on size and strength. This was a true pioneer who changed everything we thought we knew about what giants could do in the ring. Don Leo Jonathan's story begins in 1931 in Hurricane, Utah. He was born Don Heaton into a family where wrestling wasn't just entertainment, it was the family business. His father, Jonathan DeLon Heaton, wrestled under the name Brother Jonathan and was known as the Mormon missionary. Wrestling was literally in Don Leo's blood. What makes his story remarkable is how early it all started. As a teenager, Don Leo was already stepping into professional wrestling rings. Most promoters wouldn't let kids anywhere near their shows, but in New York, they made an exception. Why? Because his mother wrote a special permission slip. That simple piece of paper opened the door to one of wrestling's greatest careers. Before wrestling became his life, Don Leo was building the foundation that would make him special. After graduating high school in Cedar City, Utah, he joined the United States Navy. He did his basic training at Treasure Island in San Francisco. In the Navy, he played football and pushed his body to new limits. But here's where his story gets really interesting. After his military service, Don Leo became a commercial deep-sea diver. Think about what that job requires. You need incredible physical conditioning. You need perfect breath control. You need mental strength that most people can't imagine. You're working underwater in dangerous conditions where one mistake could kill you. This wasn't just another job for Don Leo. It was training. Every dive made him stronger. Every dangerous situation underwater taught him how to stay calm under pressure. When he finally stepped into wrestling rings full-time, he brought skills that no other big man had ever possessed. Don Leo Jonathan's professional wrestling career officially started in 1949, though some records say 1950. Either way, he was young and already showing signs of something special. He began by teaming with his father in tag team matches before going solo. What happened next changed wrestling forever. Don Leo didn't just become successful, he became a global phenomenon. Over 3 decades from the 1950s through 1980, he collected an incredible 45 championship titles. These weren't just local wins either. He wrestled in Europe, South Africa, Australia, and Japan. But his biggest success came in the United States and Canada. In 1955, he captured the Montreal World Heavyweight title twice with Canadian Athletic Promotions. In Toronto, he teamed with Gene Kiniski to win the Canadian Open Tag Team title in 1959. He won the AWA World Heavyweight Championship in Omaha 3 times in 1961. But his real home became Vancouver, Canada, where he settled in the 1960s. Vancouver is where Don Leo Jonathan became a legend. With NWA All-Star Wrestling, he won the Pacific Coast Heavyweight title 5 times between 1970 and 1977. He won the NWA World Tag Team title with Dominic DeNucci in 1966. But here's the record that shows his true dominance. He won the Canadian Tag Team title an incredible 18 times between 1964 and 1966-1978. No one else even came close. But championships don't tell the whole story. What made Don Leo Jonathan special was how he moved. At nearly 6 feet 7 inches tall and weighing between 285 and 340 pounds, he should have been slow and clumsy. Instead, he was doing things that seemed impossible. Eyewitnesses describe him throwing drop kicks like a cruiserweight. He could do backflips and somersaults. He performed standing drop kicks, flying head scissors, leapfrogs, and kip-ups. One fan wrote about seeing him doing a somersault over the top rope and cartwheeling and kipping up. Another described him as moving like a high flyer, even though this is a big man in the 1950s. Wrestling legend Stu Hart put it best. That big man could do and it almost always meant victory for him. But it wasn't just his moves that made him special. It was who he fought and how he fought them. His most famous rivalry was with Andre the Giant, who was then known as Jean Ferret. On May 31, 1972, Jonathan defeated Andre by disqualification in Montreal. The promoters called it the match of the century, and 16,000 fans packed the Montreal Forum to see it. Their rematch on September 7, 1972, was called the Battle of the Giants. Here's what makes this incredible. Their series of matches generated Andre's biggest drawing houses prior to his programs with Hulk Hogan. This was before Andre became a worldwide superstar. Don Leo Jonathan was the man who helped create that stardom. He also had intense feuds with Killer Kowalski. During one match in Montreal, something happened that shows how dangerous wrestling really was. Jonathan attempted a body slam on Kowalski, but Kowalski slipped due to sweat and landed wrong. The impact pinched nerves in Kowalski's spine, causing temporary paralysis from the chest down. Kowalski told Jonathan he couldn't move. Jonathan pinned him, and Kowalski was carried out on a stretcher. But amazingly, a chiropractor made an adjustment backstage, and Kowalski returned for the second fall. The crowd thought he had faked the whole thing, but the paralysis was completely real. Don Leo also fought legends like Lou Thez, Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales, and Chuck O'Connor, who later became Big John Studd. He even had matches with the Wrestling Bear, showing that no challenge was too strange for him. His most controversial aspect was his Mormon Giant persona. In 1963, the Church Information Service sent him a cease and desist letter telling him to stop using the Mormon Giant name. But Don Leo appealed directly to LDS Church President David O. McKay. McKay, who was actually a wrestling fan, told him to ignore the letter. McKay believed even negative publicity could help the church. As a compromise, Don Leo agreed to direct angry fans to local missionaries after his matches, turning his wrestling persona into a bridge for his faith. Don Leo Jonathan's final match took place on March 10, 1980, in Vancouver. It was fitting that he ended his career alongside two other legends, Andre the Giant and Roddy Piper. Together, they defeated the Sheepherders and Buddy Rose. After 3 decades in the ring, the Mormon Giant walked away on his own terms. Retirement didn't slow him down. He used his Navy diving training to start his own diving company in Western Canada. He became an avid hunter and fisherman, spending his days in the wilderness he loved. This wasn't a man struggling to find purpose after wrestling. This was someone who had always known who he was beyond the ring. Don Leo also tried acting, appearing in the 1978 Sylvester Stallone movie Paradise Alley as a wrestler. He did commercial work too, showing that his larger-than-life personality worked just as well on camera as it did in wrestling rings. But in August 2018, his health began failing. He was hospitalized in British Columbia for 2 months. On October 13, 2018, at the age of 87, Don Leo Jonathan passed away. The man who had spent a lifetime defying gravity finally came to rest. The wrestling world mourned, but they also celebrated. Don Leo Jonathan had been inducted into the Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame in 1996. He was inducted into the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2006. In 2007, he received the Cauliflower Alley Club's Iron Mike Mazurki Award. He was honored across British Columbia in 2005. But the real measure of his legacy comes from his peers. Stu Hart called him one of the greatest wrestlers of his time, and without a doubt, one of the best big men of all time. He's universally recognized as the most athletic big man in the history of the sport. Don Leo Jonathan didn't just have a successful career, he changed what wrestling could be. Before him, big men were expected to be slow and powerful. After him, giants knew they could fly. He set a new standard that influenced generations of wrestlers who came after him. The tragic end in that hospital room was just the final chapter of an incredible story. Don Leo Jonathan lived as a pioneer, a champion, and a man who never forgot his roots. The Mormon Giant may have passed away, but his legacy towers over professional wrestling forever.